Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Regular. I am a soul-centered empowerment coach at Lighting the Path and also your host here at the Wisdom Speakers and Seekers podcast. This is where I bring guests from all around the world to share their messages, their passion, their joys, and how we can better serve and uplift humanity. Today, I'm so excited to have Nicholas Harvey here. He's zooming in from Atlanta, Georgia. He's known as the social impact coach, an inclusion instigator, a strategic advisor for corporate managers and leaders who are committed to creating an inclusive work environment, an inclusive community and world. He holds doctorates in both theology and public policy. And as a social impact coach and an inclusion instigator, he is committed to creating an infrastructure for diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and justice through leadership development and policy change. Nicholas uses his nonprofit and public policy expertise to help corporate social purpose leaders across sectors achieve their missions for positive change and justice by providing the necessary awareness, skills, knowledge, motivation, mindset, and strategies so that they can have peace, be more productive, and really make a difference. Nicholas, it's so wonderful to have you here today. Welcome. And I so look forward to our discussion on how to restore health, harmony, and happiness.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It is my pleasure to be here with you and your audience on today. Indeed, seeking wisdom and peace and wholeness and soundness, I think is so vital for us today. And so I appreciate your message and the impact that you wish to have and the intent that you put forth in that effort.
Thank you so much. And it's such a pleasure to be able to gather together and be able to create that synergy and work with each other. As Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home, right? And we come together so that we can start creating that harmony and create global coherence and look at what needs healing. Like how do we get to this place where we're needing to restore health and happiness and harmony? And before we get to that, though, Nicholas, I'm curious how this became such a passion for you.
Oh, certainly. I think coming from my background has always been from a religious and spiritual place where we're able to see life, each other, the world really in its totality. So often in our upbringing and our training, we tend to want to segment, right? So we want to break apart the physical and the spiritual, the intellectual, the emotional. No, we're all when we come to engaging each other, engaging our worlds, and that is all present. And to try to deny that or to separate it does us all a disservice. And so the challenge becomes then that we find ourselves out of alignment and we don't really know how to address it because maybe we've only been trained in maybe an intellectual path. Or maybe we've only been trained to deal with one's emotions, or maybe we've only been trained, say, in a somatic coaching environment where we're just talking about the body here. It's like, yeah, but there's more. Indeed, we are spiritual beings. We are created to be spiritual beings. And so we're not human beings that are seeking a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings overcoming and mastering the human experience. And so when we see that, we want to be connected with who we are at our core. And when we start living from our core, we're then able to live in a place of alignment and peace. When we're out of sync with that, that's where we start feeling the discomfort, or even we talk about being sick in our body. Disease is dis-ease. So we're seeking for that place of just sort of push pause for a moment and create our awareness and develop those skills and start working those muscles. And I think that's the opportunity that comes by listening to podcasts like yours.
Right. And you're right. We are spiritual beings having this human experience. And so it's really important to become aware of that, to really understand it at a deep level. And then also look at ways where we can keep our spirit intact. Because there are a lot of things that pull us in different directions that can fragment us or dim our light and bring us down or confine us to certain conditions and roles that need to be played. And that's quite often been the case. I've had many different positions in my career where it was always, the role to role way of relating with others. Whereas I always felt like I wanted to come more from a soul to soul connection.
Mhm.
And so that's why I was kept on seeking different roles and different relationships that allowed me to do that. And then finally, starting my own business in different ways so that I can find a way to be of service in a more expanded way, not just for myself, but for really being able to help people to understand how they can embrace their power and find strength and to keep their spirit intact. When we talk about healing, it's really coming back to that wholeness,
Yeah.
right? And so if each one of us can find that place of harmony, then we can really create that global coherence, because then we can all be in harmony with each other. And a lot of people talk about oneness, and you know, the energy of oneness is a beautiful thing to think about, but we are also individuals, and each one of us at different stages of our spiritual mastery and growth and ways of being, because we all came here for our own individual experience of this human life. And when we can come together in a way where we can accept those differences, not tolerate it, but really appreciate those differences, then I feel like we can really come to that soul to soul way of connecting and bringing about that harmony. What did you feel lit your path, Nicholas, as you were trying to define yourself as a spiritual being, having this human experience and lining you up with the work that you're meant to do here? What lit your path?
Sure. I think it's the language of purpose, asking that question, why am I here? The questions that we all ask, as each generation finds its own answers to those eternal questions, and the best way to be of service to people in that regard. And I just appreciate the image that you created for us on today in terms of the idea of oneness, but also about harmony, right?
Mm-hmm,
As
mm-hmm.
you know, we're playing our individual notes, but there's a merging and a melding that comes together, so that when we're in alignment with who we are, we play our own note faithfully, not being influenced by what others think we perhaps ought to be or should be. Then we find ourselves playing sharp or flat.
Mm.
But when we play our own unique note, then it comes together with others in harmony, as long as they're continuing to play their own unique notes as well. And so I believe that the idea of authenticity, and that's why, back to answer your question, is about purpose. What is my purpose? I know that I am here to empower, not to enable, but to empower. We all come empowered, but there's a certain awareness that comes with that, right? And so to bring that awareness to everyone about indeed the power that we have to choose, the power that we have to create worlds, for ourselves, and to be in alignment with that for the benefit of others.
Right. Let's expand on that a little bit about how we can create our world. Because a lot of people, there's many people that are quite devastated in the conditions of the world, and a lot of different ways that the world's being perceived right now and our place in it. So you're talking about being able to create our world. Can you share a little bit about what that means, how we can do that?
Surely, surely. Again, back to the idea that we come into this world empowered, but
Mm.
then we don't have that sort of awareness. We don't feel that we have choice. One of the most powerful things that we have is the ability to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And so often we find ourselves getting caught up. For instance, right now, I think the global example, and even particularly in the United States, is when they talk about they use the term the Great Resignation.
Mm-hmm.
That people are choosing in ways that they never have before, and that is a very powerful position for workers to say, you know what, I can figure this out. I might not know the answer right now,
Yeah.
but you know what? For myself, I am choosing that this particular work environment is not where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And to stand there in that power is an incredible place. And corporations, they don't know what to do with that because they've never seen it before, where people are saying, no, we're not choosing you for any reason, right? That consumers are saying, you know what, we're not choosing you. your organization does not align with our values. Workers, this is not the environment that I want to be in. And as I said before, they might not know the answer right now, but you know what? There is a trust in creating what we want for ourselves that, you know what? I'll figure it out. We're empowered. We are equipped. We are capable of figuring it out. And folks are doing that. You know, many people are saying, you know what? I'll take an entrepreneurial path. They're willing to say that I want to have a business where I can be of service to people, you know, because it emanates from who I am. The types of clients that I have are people where we resonate with our, you know, our similar values. It's just a wonderful opportunity. And I would hope that people would embrace that for themselves more fully.
I love that you're illuminating that for us, Nicholas, because I know beliefs really can create our reality. They create the outcome. No matter the event, our belief about it, our perception, our reality comes from that belief and then supports the outcome that happens. And when people are believing that they don't have a choice, that they're restricted in some way, or, you know, and feel resistant to being able to make their choices or live in a way that they want to, it appears that they're looking at it because they're giving their power away to external forces that make those decisions for them.
Yes.
When it's important to realize and maybe shift or clear those beliefs that are limiting and realize that the true source of that power, as you say, we are empowered, we are spiritual beings, to claim that sovereignty and to move from that space where we can create our own reality and that we do have choices and we can make those choices consciously to support what it is that we are trying to create. And you were saying that when we're uncomfortable, it can create that sense of dis-ease and create to a multitude of emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical ailments and problems and conditions that can be alleviated, even especially alleviated from the suffering of those conditions, when we start to realize that we are empowered, that we don't have to rely on self-doubt and not feeling worthy or that we're sick, right? And believing that health exists and it exists for all. And how do we cultivate that idea or that kind of reality that of a healthy whole world in being?
Yes. So I want folks to hear and understand this, that whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Right.
So when the awareness comes, and let me just say this, because we're talking sort of from the, how is it? People sometimes will see our glory, but they don't know our story. And so maybe I can share a bit about the story, because that was part of what I had to realize in my own life when I was encountering some health challenges. And it got rather intense for me, particularly during the period of the pandemic. And I figured, well, it's part of the pandemic, or I'm getting older, or something like that, trying to sort of make excuses about what's going on. And I was like, no, it was my response to what was going on around me, and even further, what I was allowing to happen to me. And so my mindset had to shift in that, because much of what I was experiencing in my body was coming from stress. What happens in the midst of stress is that we have, stress is a neutral phenomenon. It just happens. Then we can choose how to respond to that, right? Some people want to use the term good stress or bad stress, or whatever. If you get a promotion, yes, we're excited, we feel that's a good event, but that is stressful. That's more responsibility, and the like. It's time for, a graduation season is going on right now. That is a time of transition for people. That stress is a celebration, but it's stressful. On the other hand, if something happens we might perceive as negative, it's stressful, but it just is. How then, again, back to the power that we have within us, How do I choose to respond? Please notice the language I'm using, to respond, not to react.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the response that I choose for this given situation? And it totally changed me. I was able to get coaching around that. And so to share that so often with people that it doesn't matter, it's not about how smart you are or how capable you are. Even the sharpest knife is not sharp enough to carve its own handle. And so by having persons like yourself available who want to serve and want to be of service to people, we can get the help that we need. And so I think that's just it's just awesome. Again, they see the glory, they see us on the back end, but they don't understand the story or really what ultimately brought us here. And everything we have experienced in life has brought us to this. And so I tell people, I've been waiting for this moment my entire life. And I have what it is I need to step into this moment fully, authentically, and aligned. Now, for your listeners, they have to know this. Your world, the constellations, around you, everybody might not be comfortable with that. And so understanding how then do we begin to engage, because it's an opportunity to even bring them along on our journey with us. Because they might be experiencing their own discomfort, their own dis-ease, all right, around what's going on. And so this really becomes a gift for everybody.
Yes. I remember saying about the universe saying, I had to make you uncomfortable, otherwise you wouldn't have moved. And that move is really being responsible, self-responsible, being able to respond rather than to react, but to take action. But I liked what I heard and what you were saying too, is taking that moment of reflection and looking at what choice do I have here. So instead of just going in for the reaction, which can contribute to stress and distress, but to what's going on here and noticing and witnessing and finding a balance between action and reflection too, so that we do stay in a place of being self-responsible, responding and making our choices, rather than just moving into action right away and not taking a moment to pause and reflect and decide how we want to proceed from this space in this moment. And I like too how we've been talking about rather than finding an excuse to find a way. Where's that opening? Where can we move through, rather than just focusing on where we might be stuck or what might be going wrong? And the idea too, I remember, I don't know who it was, it might have been Ilana Van Zandt or Maya Angelou, who said that about the butterfly, right? When you talk about glory and not story, the butterfly, sometimes all we see is the butterfly, but not all the different stages that it went through to become that butterfly, that complete transformation. But it went through very different stages, didn't instantly become a caterpillar to a butterfly either. There were different stages that were happening along the way to create that new form and to be able to take flight, from crawling on the ground, slithering around, to having the complete metamorphosis, and then having that cocoon space.
Sure.
Also, right? Taking that time for retreat and taking refuge and to come back to source and to decide how you want to be, and then emerging as a butterfly or whatever you're meant here to do, right? Through this human experience. And I wonder, what about the idea of happiness then? Where does that come from? How do we restore happiness?
Yeah. So to your sort of caterpillar and butterfly analogy, is knowing that butterfly is on the inside of that worm. So often we get caught up in the, I'm just a worm. It's like, yeah, but what's on the inside of that worm? Right? The idea that within that acorn, right, is this mighty oak tree. The notion, I was visiting someone, I'm fascinated by bamboo.
Oh yeah.
Fascinated by bamboo, because it just seems that, when it starts out, there's just nothing happening. Nothing happening. And then all of a sudden, visible growth, visible growth, visible growth, rapid growth that emerges. And so for us to say, what does happiness look like for us? For us, as opposed to allowing someone else to say what happiness ought to look like or should. I was doing this training we were sharing before, and I said, we need to stop shoulding on people.
That's right.
to take that moment. And so when do we do it? Because there are always so many external messages. But we take a moment to say, you know what, that does not make me happy. That does not fulfill me. That does not provide for me the significance that I want in my life. You know, this is the role that I would like to play, and this is how I would like to play it.
That takes some radical honesty too, with ourselves and with others, to really claim and be okay with what we want and what we need, and how to be able to express that, and bringing in that authenticity too that you mentioned. Continue, please.
No, please. No, you're right.
I was just reflecting on that. I was like, it really does take radical honesty.
That moment.
But with yourself, you know?
But we're so busy.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the roles that we play, throughout our lives. And when do we take the minute or a moment just to say, what is it that, first of all, who am I? You know, at my core. Right. When people say, you know, because there's so much, we talk about what you do, like my job is this, or this relationship is this. You know, as a parent, you know, I'm so and so's dad. You know, I don't have my own name. I'm so and so's dad. But who I am is I am an empowerer, and I'm an embracer of humanity.
Yes.
You know, I'm a justice seeker. And so wherever I find myself then, so that means if I take a job or anything like that, when I show up as, you know, an empowerer, an embracer of humanity, and a justice seeker.
Yes.
Right. You know, even if it's as simple as, you know, going through the elementary school and children are excited and they're running down the halls and one student falls, right? But people keep running all over them. It's like, no, stop.
Yeah.
We have to stop here and lift this one child up, right? Because you know, we're oblivious to sometimes to what's going on around us, right? So where we show up as who we are, not just what we do.
Yes.
And then we're happy. There's like, how was your day? It's like, I was able to live out from who I really am, in alignment, and that energizes us, so that when we come home from quote work, it's like, you know, we had a great day, and there's a smile on our face, and we can continue to return there, and it sets the tone, and that's really, really powerful for us, with this sense of awareness that we become a thermostat and not just a thermometer.
A thermostat, not just a thermometer. Expand on that.
A thermostat sets the temperature. A thermometer responds to the temperature. We set the tone for what goes on in our environments, right?
Yes.
So that we remain aligned with who we are and what we're about. Absolutely.
And leadership is also about how you hold presence in your community, in your families as well, and with yourself, and allowing soul to lead rather than ego, right? And being in an act of service rather than an act of ego of, you know, how much we accomplished or how much we got done. Sometimes when you ask how someone was, they're relating it to their to-do list, right? Either they got a lot done or they didn't get a lot done, or, you know, working on these projects, or people start priding themselves on, oh, it's so super crazy busy right now. Are you just being busy, or are you being fulfilled?
Yes. Yes.
Right. And just take a moment to really think about that. Is what you're doing aligned with your values and your priorities and what's meaningful for you? How deeply satisfied are you with your life and the way that you're living it? And how are you showing up as a leader, as a parent, as a community member, and for yourself too? How are you showing up for yourself? how are you giving back to yourself, I think too, is also really, really important. And another way to restore the harmony and the happiness and the health is when we take care of ourselves
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
What kind of practices support wellness? What kind of
Sure.
practices do you use, Nicholas, to
Sure.
support your wellness,
Yeah. Here's one.
well-being?
And let me say this: you are so absolutely right.
Mm.
So I think you and I were talking before about the time that people who are doing this work, that we hold sacred space for each other, because if you're doing work around diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and justice, with whom do you talk?
Mm.
Where is your community? My partner and collaborator in this work told a story about how he saw himself as a firefighter, and he was out putting out these fires, and then a voice said to him, "Turn around." And he looks over his shoulder, and his own house is on fire.
Hmm.
That was just such a radical revelation for him, that I'm spending all this time out here, but I'm not taking care of my own home.
Right.
And so for us to really take care of ourselves, first it becomes the awareness that we need that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What
Wake up
model
call.
or what
Mm-hmm.
stories did we come out? Mine had to be the health challenge, and then after going through a series of doctors and medical this and that, the revelation that there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
You are perfectly healthy. And I said, I am. It's like, yeah, this is your response to stress. And the next thing you know, I'm losing weight. I don't have to, I'm not, I couldn't tolerate these different medicines. They just weren't working with me. And of course, we understand why. I did not need them.
Right.
And so lost weight, all the whatever things of health. They do the blood tests and all that. It's like, oh, all your metrics and measures are good. Yes, I am perfectly healthy. And so I stay in that space. So that's number one. Mm-hmm. That awareness of, you know what, I'm all right. There's nothing, and we use the term wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. There might be something going on, but there's nothing wrong.
Right.
You see that? We often, if we're going through something, that's the first assumption. Even if we look at somebody and maybe they're down, the first question we ask what's wrong rather than what's going on.
And what's strong in you too.
Okay.
Not just what's wrong in you, but what's strong in you.
Right. To shift that. So that's one. Mm-hmm. Two, the idea of is, you know what? I need sleep. I like sleep. What does it take to get the amount of sleep that I need, right? Mm-hmm. Because we oftentimes come from cultures that think that, oh, if you're sleeping, then something must be wrong, or you're just lazy. It's like, no, I need to replenish, and take care of this vessel, take care of this body. And so things like sleeping, eating, not feeling guilty for doing nothing. Yeah. I have actually put in my calendar certain blocks, and I name it stuff just in case someone looks at it. Oh, I see you're busy right now. Yeah, I'm busy during that period. And it has different color codes that I know that's just space that I have provided in my own life.
Yes.
I need space from the work. Sometimes we need space from those that are around us, even those we love. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need space from them, for them to be able to understand and honor that. I think is so important. And then the other practice becomes those courageous conversations. The ability to say no. Mm-hmm. That is the hardest part, I think, of adulting. And we know that we are adults when we can say no to those authorities in our lives and be okay with it.
Yeah. Why do you think we don't, Nicholas? What makes it hard to say no?
I think it's perhaps the stories that we tell ourselves about it, or the stories we've been told about it. Mm. Depending upon what culture one might come from. So for instance, another collaborator of mine, we were talking about coaching across cultures. And so had a gentleman who's in India. He's Eastern Indian. He's lives, in a household still with his parents, even as an adult. So we see the multi-generational relationships. But there were things that he wanted to do and he wanted to accomplish. But his coach was Western. His coach was from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And we started asking, this young man questions about how might he communicate to his parents his own needs. And the coach came from a Western perspective and was asking the young man and looking at opportunities. What could he possibly do? And tried to make a suggestion. And the young man said, no, I can't do that because my parents will think that I don't love them.
Oh, those beliefs again, right?
Those beliefs again.
Yeah.
So we had to come back around to say, how then can you communicate to your parents that indeed you do love them? And here's what you perhaps need.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes rooted in the culture. We honor all values, right? Which is very important. And that becomes a consistency and alignment.
Yes.
Because the challenge for us so much is it's not the actions, but it's how do we feel about the action?
Mm-hmm.
And if the action that we're taking is not in alignment, then again, take the step back and say, how can I do this in a way that aligns with who I am? Conversely, if it's a place where, we've been raised and by people who are rather manipulative, that becomes something else,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where people might weaponize their emotions
Mm-hmm.
against us. That becomes another level of awareness, and maybe for our own psychic health, there might be some other radical actions to take. But that's why we have persons like yourself. That's why we have coaches, to be of service to us, to talk it through. Again, I might not know what to do right now, but we know something should be done, must be done for us. We're called to do something else, to take another path.
Yeah.
And so there's something that we really want to do alone. So it's not always just the how, sometimes it's the who.
It's the who.
Sometimes it's the who.
Who is so important because you want to make sure that it's someone that you feel safe talking with, right? That you feel supported with. And I'd love for you to share, Nicholas, how people can get in touch with you, because I know you have so much to offer and you've been sharing so much wisdom with us today. And I really thank you for that. And I really appreciate you being here and showing up for that. And if people do want to get in touch with you, how can they?
Surely. You can always find me on my website. It's at nicholasharveyconsulting.com. I will be happy to hear from you. We have resources. We can connect you, indeed, with our community of coaches and others who can serve people and help them and advance them on their own paths.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words for our audience? Anything you'd like to leave here with them?
Sure. First, thank you, Jennifer, for this time, this opportunity. Soren Kierkegaard said, you know what? We are beggars telling other beggars where to find bread. And so as we're on this journey together, let's continue to uplift one another, because
Yes.
What we do is not for ourselves, it's to impact the world.
Cheers to that. Thank you so much. And thank you all who've been listening, who've been watching. We honor you, we support you, and we're here if you want to get in touch with us and just continue watching. We love having you as part of the audience. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you again, Nicholas. Bye for now.